Hi everyone, Brittany here. The content I'm talking about in this video is more so directed to those who are still in school, whether it be high school, middle school, or even earlier than that. I won't get into the real complex ideas of the fashion industry or what is studied in fashion school, as that is something I am still learning about. I will be making a video about what it's like to be at fashion school, but that comes later. I mostly just want to give some introductions and ideas on how to get more involved in fashion design and see if it's right for you. In last week's Q&A, Juicy Daily asked a really interesting question about how to get started in fashion. I didn't really give a good detailed answer, so this is what I want to do right now. So fashion, it's a big industry for sure. We all have our different reasons and aspirations when it comes to fashion. Personally, I love how I can present one's present interests and passions without needing to speak. It's like a snapshot in time. Whether it be fit for purpose or to spread a message, fashion is pretty amazing. Getting started to learn more about fashion is pretty easy. You really just have to have a hunger to learn and to think openly. The world of fashion is ever changing and it can take some time to figure out where you want to stand in this environment. I'm still figuring this out myself. We will just start from the beginning. One of the most amazing things about living in this modern world is how knowledge is so easily accessible to us. Humans naturally learn from example, and professionals do this too, and that is to research and gain inspiration. Collect information about things you love and are passionate about, whether they be fashion related or not. This could be clothing, designers, celebrities, people you admire, family, friends, places you've been. It's just as well to create from the mind, but it helps so much more if you have your inspiration right in front of you. I was looking through my old drawings today and I found a bunch of these inspiration books. They're just full of magazine cutouts, things that I found interesting, and photos from holidays. I made these ones when I was about 11 or 12. It's just full of photos, things that I saw on the street. I collected flyers or cards, just colours and drawings and photos that I just found interesting and put them in here. It's quite fun to look back on after all these years. There's a lot of inspiration here. Not just looking at physical work and things in the real world, but also looking online is a great way to gain inspiration. Pinterest is amazing, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, you don't waste paper and you can compile boards with different themes or moods, and most importantly, you can cite your sources. This means you can find out where the photo came from, and this is extremely important for anyone who will be studying fashion design at fashion school. If you don't cite your sources and give credit, you can get in a lot of trouble. Also, by the way, I found Stardoll a great way to gather research and inspiration. A fun little exercise I like to do every now and then is to pick a few pieces from my wardrobe and recreate them. Of course, this design won't be used for anything, but it's really good to get the brain working and to see things in a different way. Next is creating and designing. Start off by finding yourself and what you feel happy drawing. If you decide to pursue fashion much later down the road after high school, then you will learn all about the industry and the ideals from there. Don't feel the need to stick to them just yet. More so just experiment and find out what interests you. If there's a certain drawing style or fashion you want to draw, then just go for it. Drawing materials wise, if you have a pen or pencil, that is perfectly fine. Watercolor paint, acrylic paint. If you like technology, try using a drawing tablet. I've even seen people design in 3D. Most importantly, just experiment. You can learn so much more about your design style if you try different things every now and then. Also, when you're designing, make sure to annotate your work. This means writing little notes and ideas around the design, pointing to features or things that you need to remember. This could be about the fabric, the seams, the certain clothing type that it is. Another great thing about the internet is that you are able to share your work. When I was younger, I was terrified of sharing my work on the internet and feared that people would say horrible things. The most important thing is to know the difference between constructive criticism and being just plain rude. Constructive criticism is a very important part of studying fashion design because you are able to gain different perspectives and then improve as a fashion designer. Pure hate is when the person says something negative but with no indication on how to improve from it. The fact that people just post straight up negativity is a waste of time and is definitely not worth your time. Just delete it and move on. You have far more important things to focus on. If you're at a school or have a community centre that teaches textile technology, sewing, or if you were lucky enough to find a class on fashion design, I recommend that you take it. Taking art classes helps a lot too, especially if printmaking and screen printing is involved. Even if it feels like the class isn't directly fashion related and kind of goes off on a tangent, there will be elements of the class that you can contribute to fashion studies. For example, screen printing is used to print on t-shirts or design fabric, and while sewing I learnt more about how garments were constructed, and it made it a lot easier when it came to designing. While the exams were boring at times, I made them interesting. I made the exams be related to things I was passionate about, which made it a lot more fun. Also, if you can get a sewing machine to use at home, I definitely recommend it. You can get them brand new or second hand for a range of prices. The machine I used through the majority of high school was over 20 years old but worked like a dream. It's mostly just a case of it's not what you use but how you use it. If you cannot get a machine, there may be some community places or at your school where students can borrow the machine at a certain time of day, or you might be able to borrow one. Go out and explore your options. Nothing is impossible. If you're new to garment construction or sewing in general, a good way to get into it is to combine both a commercial pattern and your own design ideas. Commercial patterns are a great way to be introduced and learn the basics of garment construction. They come in a variety of difficulties. Some are very easy while others are more of a challenge. This final tip, which I have repeated already, but that is to explore. Don't dream about making that big break, look for it. If you're in high school, I can guarantee that there will be fashion shows and events you are eligible for. It frustrates me that a lot of high schools don't publicize this. Textile and fashion related classes are so tiny, there's not really that support. So you really have to take the initiative for yourself and go out there. When it comes to entering events or fashion shows, don't enter for the sake of winning, because it's not fun and it's just more stressful than anything. And you can learn so much about working backstage, dressing models, scheduling, getting everyone out on stage on time. It's a lot of work. It's very fast paced, but it is so good to have that experience firsthand. The more you participate, the easier it gets, and you get into the fashion environment. You meet people with the same interests around the same age, and I've met people in Wellington who recognised me. Putting your passions and things you worked so hard on out there for everyone to see is scary. But the more I do it, the easier it gets, and the more I feel assured that this is what I want to do. So that was mostly about the building blocks on how to get more involved in fashion. If you're getting to the end of your high school studies and thinking about pursuing fashion as a career, attending fashion school is a great next step to achieving that dream. There you can really hone in your skills, gain experience, and get feedback from those already in the fashion industry. Technically, to get into fashion school, you don't actually need any prior fashion or sewing knowledge. They will give you a crash course in the first year, but to make it a lot less stressful, it definitely helps to have an understanding beforehand. If anyone's interested, I can make a video about building a portfolio to get into fashion school. Something that my tutor first said to me in the first few weeks of fashion school really surprised me. She said something along the lines of how fashion students enter fashion school full of ideas and wonder. Through trying new things, questioning why things are normal, and wanting to change their ideas of the industry. But by their final year, their work changes so much, but it reflects more of the industry norm. I can't really explain what she meant by that because I haven't finished my fashion school journey, but I don't want to forget what she said. Don't be afraid to do things a little differently. I would try something unconventional just because it interested me rather than see the industry's perceptions. It's funny because in some ways I am still quite naive, but it's just a thought. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.